let's go ahead and talk about the best gear for beginners when going into real estate photography. We're going to go ahead and get into the camera that we should get, the lens that we should get, and any other various items that we should really need when just starting out in real estate photography. So let's go right into it. First piece of gear that we should need is a camera. Now we want to look at DSLRs or mirrorless SLR cameras and stick away from point and shoots. The reason why we want to stick with the DSLR, or why that's an advantage for us, is because they have interchangeable lenses that we can change out whether we need a zoom lens, a wide angle lens, or any other types of lens. We have that. The second thing is that we have expandability. We can add flashes, mics, a whole bunch of things to a camera that you won't be able to do to a point and shoot. Another thing is that it also has better quality. In the point and shoots, you don't get as much quality, you don't have a bigger sensor, so on the DSLRs you can get a bigger sensor and you can get better megapixels and better quality out of it. And then the last thing is that it can handle a lot more, whereas we can do raw images instead of on the point and shoots. You probably won't be able to do raw images, and that's a very important part when it comes to editing real estate, that we want to be editing in raw and not in just JPEG or PNG formats. So that's what we should be looking at for cameras. Now, a couple of cameras that I would suggest is you don't really need to get like a big fancy camera. I would start off with like a cheap Canon, like a T7, 6, or 5. Or if you wanted to do a Nikon, like a D3500, D50, 600. Those are like around $400 to $500 for a brand new kit. If you do want to get a used one, you can definitely go ahead and look on the used market on Amazon or on eBay, and you can get a much better deal for one of those cameras and maybe get one for like $200-300. So that's where I would look at for cameras, because we don't need anything like crazy expensive, but we just need something that will get the job done. Now the second thing is lenses. Yes, some of these cameras that you might be purchasing already come with a kit lens and they come with like an 18 to 55. However, that isn't really wide enough for us when it comes to real estate photography. I would always suggest you purchase a separate wide angle lens. That lens is going to give us the angle and the ability that we need to capture a whole room, because in real estate, the whole point is to get as much of the room as possible. So add an additional wide angle lens. You can look at Tokina, you can look at Sigma, you can probably pick up a wide angle for $300 to $400 brand new. Used, again, you can get cheaper on any of those aftermarket sites like Amazon or eBay. But definitely I would suggest picking up a wide angle lens, because it's absolutely necessary, or a necessity, for real estate photography. The third piece of equipment we need is absolute must. Like all these things I'm talking about are kind of like a must. Is a tripod. A tripod is very important because we can't really take photos without a tripod. So I would suggest looking into a tripod. You can get a cheap one as well. You can get the tripod really doesn't matter like how cheap it is, because all it needs to do is hold your camera. So it could be as cheap as like a $30 tripod, or it could be up to like $50 to $100. It really doesn't matter. So this fourth piece of equipment isn't necessarily a requirement unless you want to dive into this style, which is flashes. If you do want to take upon the flash photography for real estate, then I would suggest getting one flash, and then as you practice and get better, then you buy some as you need. You could always pick up a cheap flash such as a Yongnuo on Amazon. It's a cheap China brand, or you can get like a used Canon or Nikon flash as well. But again, it's not a requirement. It's just in case if you want to go into that type of style photography for real estate. You don't have to, but it's totally up to you. Now, if you do end up getting into the flash section, there is going to be a couple more requirements for that, like such as a light stand, like some type of diffusion, like a softbox or a shoot-through umbrella. You might need triggers and stuff like that. But I'll go ahead and talk about that in another video, because then we're going to have to dive a little bit more into these specific things that we need for flash photography. So now the last thing you pretty much need is obviously a computer and just photo editing software. And the softwares that I really recommend for a beginner to really partake on is Lightroom and Photoshop. Those are pretty much the only two that you need. If you want to dive into like having an automated system for you, you can look into Aurora HDR. But for the most part, you kind of want to get a subscription to the Creative Suite of Adobe so that you can have Lightroom and Photoshop, because those are the editing platforms that almost every single photographer uses, and you are pretty much good to go. Other than that, that is the basic gear that I would suggest for anyone getting started in real estate photography. I hope you guys found this interesting and helpful on that case as well. If you have any other ideas, please let me know. I also have more information up on my site on apertureuniversity.com. I have more content related to real estate photography and video as well. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.